Okay, we're still talking about results here. The results of the Catholic Reformation, sometimes called the Counter Reformation. And I'm not going to dwell too much on these next two slides. I'm just going to hit them really hard and fast because we're going to cover this stuff in the next few times we get together. These are the outcomes. One is Christianity remains split. The Catholic Reformation, while it does stabilize the church, it does not heal the rift that was caused by the Reformation. So now what you have is you have a Europe in which you have Protestantism and Catholicism, which do not like each other and consider each other not just, the enemy, I guess you could say, but the other is a heretic. Coexistence with them, like, can you coexist with the devil? No, you have to get rid of the devil. And so there's a sense in which how do you coexist, I guess you could say. Like, one of the early ideas was this thing called the Peace of Augsburg. After one of the wars between the Protestants and the Catholics, was the Peace of Augsburg was the result. And it came up with this sort of way of doing things. I can't even say. Quis regio ius religio, which just means whose realm, his religion. So here's the deal. Rather than saying this is what it essentially does, it says whoever is the prince of this land, and this is really important in the Holy Roman Empire, which was a hot mess. Whoever is the prince of this land, or the lord of this land, or the bishop of this land, whatever, whoever that is, they get to determine whether the area is going to be Protestant or Catholic. And then if you're a Catholic in a Protestant area, you just got to go. You got to head out, go somewhere else to a Catholic area. If you're a Protestant in the Catholic area, you just got to go. There's not going to be tolerance within this area. You're going to pick one or the other, and anybody who's not that, you got to go. So the ruler decides what religion the realm would be, and if you don't like it, see ya. You got to go. Did this work? Honestly, it probably worked a little bit in terms of there wasn't as many outright wars as there would have been and as there eventually comes to be. But there's another thing that kind of happens here, and we'll talk about this here in a second, about how this kind of plays out. One of the problems that you're going to get almost immediately is when this, in 1555, there is there's Protestantism, sort of led by Luther, and there's Catholicism. And then there's this sort of small little thing in Geneva led by a guy named John Calvin. Well, within 10 years of this, there's going to be something called Calvinism, which is sort of a version of Protestantism that starts to become as popular and as dominant in Europe as Lutheranism. But the choice is not between Catholicism, Lutheranism, and Calvinism. It's between Lutheranism and Catholic. So if you're a Calvinist ruler, you don't get to say, "Well, we're going to be Calvinists." No, that's off the table. And so now, as Calvinism, I can't even speak today. As Calvinism becomes more popular, man, that becomes really problematic and gets really messy. You throw something else in there, messy. We'll talk about that. Another result of this is going to be this constant competition to convert rulers and regions. So if the ruler of this region is Catholic, excuse me, then, and maybe his brother, who's the next in line, is a Protestant, well, then maybe the Catholic ruler has an accident. And then the Catholic ruler dies, and now the new ruler is Protestant, and now this whole area becomes Protestant. And that becomes about a lot of the intrigue, is trying to convert or kill off or whatever, to try and arrange it so that someone from your faith is in control. And that becomes a big thing the Jesuits are doing, is trying to sort of undermine that. And we're going to see during this period, besides seeing a lot of wars of religion, we're going to see a lot of assassinations of religion as well. Larger regions face civil wars if toleration was impossible. So maybe this worked for like a small little area within the Holy Roman Empire. But let's say that I'm in control of France. Well, that's a little messier. I mean, it's one thing to say to the Protestants here, head over there. But that gets a lot messier. It's a lot harder. And so what we see with France happening pretty soon here is it's going to fight fewer wars, and it's going to fall into a period of civil war, which we'll talk about. I think we'll talk about. I haven't quite decided yet. We'll see. And then, of course, we get the religious wars of the 16th and 17th century, kind of culminating in one we're going to hit by the time we get to the exam number 1, the 30 Years' War, which lasts 30 years. And essentially is what we kind of call the last religious war, because by that point people just say, screw religion, we're going to figure some other way out to do this. Not screw religion, but screw religion as a reason to fight these wars. It's going to be less important to the whole thing. All right. But that's it. The main thing I want to point out here is that the Reformation, the Counter-Reformation, while a religious theological dispute, sort of expands into a whole wide range of other areas of social, art, literature. It expands into politics, war, all that kind of stuff. That these things are not isolated from each other. We study them all together, especially in this class with art, literature, history, all that kind of stuff, because they're so interconnected. You can't pull them apart. All right, let's talk about some